I know that we're not alone in the universe because I've met people from other places outside of our world.
Some people actually have something to risk, and I think for me it just got to the point that I didn't care anymore. I just knew this was something I needed to talk about.
It just disappoints me about humanity that there are people who will ignore the fact that this happens, and more importantly to myself, for purely personal reasons, that it has happened to me.
You know, we live in a scientific universe. If you can't see or smell or touch or feel it, it's not real.
We're taught to live in a box. We're taught to believe in a box. And anything that goes outside that box is looked upon as weird, as strange.
It is a very scary thing to think that a being that was not from this earth, and God only knows from where, showed up in my bedroom or showed up in my living room and wanted to poke needles in me or do some horrendous thing. Terrifying. It's terrifying. And I would hope that no one would have those experiences. I have had those experiences. I would never want to repeat them again. I found myself upstairs in my bedroom listening to this horribly loud noise. And it frightened me so much, and I went downstairs, and I thought I was going to open that front door and run like hell. But when I got downstairs, my dog was plastered up against the front door like she was paralyzed. She couldn't move. And this horribly loud sound was coming from the back of the house where the kitchen was. And so I inched my way back there, and to my amazement, 3 or 4 beings tried to drag me and take me physically. This was happening on a nightly basis. They were in my room, they were in my house, and I said, no, you are not going to do this. I'm not going. Let go of me. And I was screaming. Of course, I was paralyzed, but you can still use your mind. They cannot paralyze your mind. And I prayed that I would not go. And I said, God, help me. And as soon as I was that adamant, a most beautiful entity of light came crashing through my bedroom wall. And this entity of light was swirling around the room, just swirling. I could hear it swishing and swirling around the room. And the next thing I knew, all of the beings were thrown out the bedroom, out the side of the wall. And at that point, I was paralyzed with fear. And I lay there and just watched this entity of light come above my bed again. And all I could think was, thank you, seemed very inadequate, but all I could think of to say at the time. And in a big booming voice, the entity said to me, as you respect yourself, so shall we. And he was gone. And from that day on, I learned that I was not a victim.
Most of the researchers in the realm had said it wasn't possible to stop an experience. Knowing that, I called some of the leading researchers in the country. So I said, guys, I've got a very unusual case here. This man, we'll use the name Bill, and during his experience, in fear, he calls out, Jesus, 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 or Jesus, please help me. By calling out, he abruptly stops his abduction experience. These entities can be stopped in the name and authority of Jesus Christ.
Once down in Cocoa, this was after I accepted Jesus Christ, they tried to come. And I kept saying, no, no, you're not doing this. And I took on the empowerment of Jesus Christ, and I stopped that. Taking on the empowerment of Jesus Christ puts a stop to a lot of things. And he's helped me a great deal. Thank you, Lord.
On this series, we're going to talk about how to refuse the alien abduction.
What's your name again?
My name's Kathy.
And my name is Diana.
So this segment, like I said, will be about how to refuse the alien abduction. First of all, half of the battle to me on it is to know that you can say no. Most people don't think that you can say no, or they don't have the knowledge that you can say no. I've been to many conferences across the country, and I've heard a lot of, some I should say, mainstream researchers get up on stage and tell the audience that there's nothing that you can do to refuse abduction, but I believe that you can. So we're going to go through the steps that I have learned.
We've been guided from experience, from our alien contacts, and from the Creator on how to protect ourselves from these negative entities. And I just like to say that when you are just getting into this knowledge and starting to use it, or starting to be aware of this alien invasion type of thing, that's when you're most vulnerable.
Yes, and that's when you have to stand your ground the hardest. And if you have loved ones that you can also have come to your aid and help stand with you against this, that's even better. Because if they realize that you when I say they, the aliens, realize that you're starting to come into the knowledge that you can resist them, they're going to come at you all the harder.
Yep.
So you need to dig in, plant your feet, and fight with everything that you have.
Because that's the last thing they want, is somebody, another opposition, somebody against them. And I think that's hopefully near the end times, people will wake up. That's my prayer, that people will wake up and know that they have the power through the Creator to just say no, get the heck out of here.
Well, and when you say end times, you think we're in the end times?
Well, I think we are in the end times now, but I don't think we're in the Great Tribulation yet.
Right.
I think it's going to get worse before it gets better.
Yes, unfortunately, but there is hope.
Yes,
there is hope.
But the end times are not the end of the world, it's the end of these troubled times.
Yes.
It is the new beginning.
Yes. So, anyway, with that said, we deviated a little bit. That's good information to have.
They didn't say that on our notes, but
no, which is
a little bonus material.
No, I think it's good information. Okay. But for me, the first step in refusing the alien abduction is to realize that you have the white light of protection that has been given to you. It's a spark of light as I envision it. It's a spark of light that resides within your heart or chest area. It's a gift that has been given to every person by the Creator. When you use it for protection, it's in the form of a thought. You shoot it out around your being like a protective white bubble, beautiful, white, shimmering, shining white light. And you can send it out to protect yourself, and you can send it out to protect people that you love. And you can send it out as far as you want, as far as your imagination can conceive. And Diana had an example of an attempted abduction.
Well, I just wanted to say that our contacts have told us that some people naturally shoot out the light when there's extreme pressure, tension, danger. It's a natural instinct to pew. But if we work on it on a daily basis and make it second nature in our conscious state, without all this, dangerous situation, because that'll come. The dangerous situations will come. You just keep sending it out, and it becomes second nature. But I did have an experience where it was in about the mid-1990s, and when I was just getting into this awareness of the alien presence, both positive and negative, on this planet and in the vicinity around this planet. And the dark side did not want me to awaken to this. And I recall waking up, and I was paralyzed, and I tried to move, and in the very beginning, my reaction was a negative. It was anger. I was so angry. Nobody has the right to do that to anybody. Nobody has the right to do anything against anybody's will. And I was like fighting it, and I moved my head, and it broke it, and they were gone. It happened one other time that I can recall. But in my head, it was the voice of one of our alien contacts. She said, I was saying a prayer this time. I had tried a little bit something different. The anger was subsiding, but I knew enough to say a prayer. And she said in my head, it's not working because you're not saying it calm enough or kind enough.
She sent a message telepathically?
Telepathically into my head. And so that was a key from that day, that time on. There's been attempted abductions, or I call it tormenting, especially when you're out of balance, you're overtired, your emotions are running, or you're just running through your days. That's when they can get to you.
When you're very vulnerable.
Very vulnerable, or between awake and sleep. That's a very vulnerable time. So that's why to say your prayers and ask for protection before you go to bed, before you go into that sleep state. Mm-hmm. But it's more, I haven't had that where I'm conscious of it now, because I think it's become second nature, where I have asked for protection.
Right. And what goes along with the white light of protection is the prayer. And the prayer is the conversation that you're having with God at the time. And when we're talking about the alien abduction and prayer, you are asking Him in your own way, please protect me. Please keep me safe. I cannot fight this battle on my own, or however you need to say it in your own individual way. But the prayer to me is a request to a higher authority, which I call God, for safety and protection.
Another tool in refusing abduction, and something to help you stay balanced, like I mentioned earlier, is meditation. And that's gotten a bad rap a little bit sometimes. I'm reading a book on the New Age religion, the one world religion, should I say. And in that, they're talking about how dangerous it is, especially if you're looking at it only giving credit to the negative side. Well, I like to look at it in the positive side. Where meditation, they're saying, if you get into meditation and get into an altered state, you leave yourself wide open, vulnerable to any demon or whatever that comes through. But I'm saying, before I meditate, I ask God for protection and for guidance. So it's just one, like the connection you're right here, not to anything and everything that's out there.
Right. So you're meditating, and you are meditating and asking for guidance to come from the true source, which is the true source for you and me, which is the white light and God.
Well, and Kathy said that praying is talking to God, and meditation, in my opinion, is just listening. We have to be quiet, have some quiet time, and listen. We'll never find the answers if we never listen. Everybody prays, and I don't get any answers, but do you ever listen?
Right. And two, when you're meditating, you're asking for balance. You're asking for enhanced knowledge, and you're asking for your intuition to be increased and for further instruction on how to live a spiritual life.
And that's the next step is, you can use the light, and you can meditate, and you can pray, and then, listen and try to stay balanced. But if you're not living properly, you go out and party and excessively drink or use drugs or stay up late and go crazy, and that just doesn't help you to stay balanced, and it doesn't help you to stay protected from the dark side.
Right. You have to choose to live spiritually. You have to choose to make correct choices, to be kind to other people, and just live a spiritual life to the best of your ability. So it is a lifestyle. It's not something that you try. It's something that you live on a daily basis. And then finally, when we're talking about all these tools, you have to have 100% faith and belief, 100%, that it will work, and that what you have requested will be given to you.
Our alien contacts have said, one speck of doubt is like a pinprick on a balloon. It just takes one. So, what other light side examples?
I maybe had one example where I don't know what could have happened, but I was walking down the hall of I lived in a trailer at the time. I was walking down the hall of my mobile home, and as I was walking down the hall, my mother she was walking down the hall the opposite direction. And I continued to go to my bed, got in bed, and when I got in bed, she came back into my bedroom, stood at my bedside, and tried to get in bed with me. And for some reason, I stiff-armed her, and I said, "No, no, Mom." And she continued, and she still tried to get in bed, and I'm like... Then I grabbed her hair, and it was almost like a battle, or something started ensuing, and then I think I started realizing something's not right here. And I started praying, "God, please help me, please protect me." And as soon as I did that, it stopped.
The interesting thing about it is that your mother did not live with you.
No. I lived in Amro, and she lived in Oshkosh. So whatever this was, entity or whatever it was, possibly shape-shifted to appear to me as my mother.
Deceptive.
But, yes. To deceive me, yes. And after this all happened, I sat in bed for a while just thinking, what just happened? What just happened? And then I remember, in the dream or whatever the experience was happening, I remember that the arm or her arm was slightly elongated and the fingers were elongated. So I knew something was not right. Mm-hmm. So I was very grateful that I had the knowledge. I knew enough to call out to God and ask for help. And
knowing enough, I think, means, if I'm interpreting correctly, using your instincts.
Yes.
Because that is that's a direct connection to the Creator. If your first instinct, your first thought is, this is not right, that usually is the correct thought.
Yes. It didn't happen right away, but I realized, and like you said, I thought, something's not right. Listen to that.
And act accordingly.
Yes. Or if you're fearful, listen to that. Do not ignore it. And ask for help. Ask for help and believe with 100% that you will get the help that you've requested.
And the light side members, every one of us have had, I call it the tormentors or interference from the negative entities, and we've learned how to protect ourselves. But we do it this certain way. That's what our pamphlet says. But people do it a number of different ways. We had a conference recently, and we had 3 people speak on their experience on how they refused alien abduction. So we're going to tell you some of their examples, and then later on we'll tell you there's a website that we found other examples yet. So it's as unique as each individual. How but there is a common thread. There is a common thread between all of them.
Yes.
Now we'd like to talk a little bit about some of the other examples besides the light side examples. Several years ago, there was a annual event called UFO Days, and there were 3 examples of how several different people refused alien abduction.
Dawn was a single mother at the time, and she had 2 children. And she had a terrible feeling that something was wrong, that something evil presence may be in her home, and it may have been threatening her children. And so she began praying to God. She said that all of a sudden she had this most incredible negative feeling that overwhelmed her. It scared her so much that she tried to move, and she could not move. So she began praying to God, "Please let me move. Let me get out of my body, out of this bed." And she said, then I did. I forced myself to get up. I crossed the hall, and I saw my daughter. And she said this was unbelievable at the time. When she was telling her story, you could really, really feel the emotion. that this was not just something that she was making up. It was a very traumatic experience for her when she felt that her children may be threatened. When she went into her daughter's room, there was a light that was shining down upon her daughter. And she said around her daughter were the aliens. She said, actually, I had never seen one or had done research. So this was, the things were in her daughter's room, and they were evil. She knew they were evil. When she touched one, they left. And the next thing she remembered was she was in her bed, and she jumped out of bed, and she ran to check on her children, and they were fine.
The gentleman who owns the establishment talked about how he refused an abduction, and what happened was he woke up and found himself in a white room with no corners. It was like a round room, laying on an examining table. He said he didn't see anybody, he didn't see any beings there, but he just had a feeling that this is not something, they wanted to do something to him, and it wasn't going to be good. And he said, in the name of Jesus Christ, you put me back. And he said he returned back so fast to his bed, it felt like he had hit his head on the headboard. And he got up and went to the window, and he heard a whirling sound. I don't think he saw anything at the time.
No, I don't think he mentioned that he saw anything, but he did hear.
Hear like a craft leaving or something.
Yes.
And there was another story which I find quite interesting, because it was a gentleman and his girlfriend. She was on the phone. She kind of witnessed it through the phone. He heard a sound. He was in his yard. He heard a sound in the woods, and he wanted to investigate. And she had this feeling, no, don't go. He goes, no, it'll be fine. You know, I'm going to go check. And what he did notice that there were no stars in the sky, and the animal sounds. She used to hear. She would hear the crickets and stuff. She did not hear it, and he comes on the phone, he's on the phone, and he says, Kelly, they're real. And she just had this she was frozen with fear for him. And she noticed that he was talking in slow motion. It was kind of like, he said when he recalled this, he was looking into the eyes of an alien. That's when he said, Kelly, they're real. And he's drawn a picture of that. Hopefully we can get that on the web. But first he said, what do I do? What do I do? And she said, tell them to give you your space. And that didn't work. And he said, he just thought, oh, I'm dead. I'm dead. So he said he did what he was taught in childhood. And he started to recite the Lord's Prayer. And he said, right after that, he was free and he could run. But what was very interesting is that he was looking into the red eyes of this alien, and he was moving closer, but he wasn't walking. And he found, when he snapped out of it, and when he said the Lord's Prayer, he was in the woods, and there was thick brush and everything, and he did not know that he was that far in. And he said when he was running, there's all this brush around him. So he didn't know how he got in, but he got out. But what I thought was interesting thing about this story is that this gentleman was very fearful, and he was very quiet man, and he didn't want to tell anybody the story. And it's like the negative aliens, that's what they prefer. They prefer you to be fearful. They prefer you not to say anything. And what happened to him a little bit later was that on his answering machine, he went back to check his answering machine, and there was a couple of messages, and the third message, or one of the messages, was this cricket chirping sound, kind of like on the movie Signs. And he was overcome with fear. And for a long time he didn't say anything about this. And I remember some of my friends and I talking to him. That's exactly what we were telling him, that's exactly what they want you to do, to be fearful and not to tell anybody. And the thing is, it caused so much fear that he was willing to not say anything. But what people needed to hear is that he did he was able to refuse abduction, and the key is how he did it, you know, and that's what needed to come out. And I think he needed to get over that fear, because then he could still, you know, gain strength and still overcome in the future.
Mm-hmm. And by the courageous act that he did, but he got up and he talked and he told other people. Because he was able to overcome his own fear, he was able to help a lot of other people by doing so, because maybe some of them had similar stories or similar experiences, and they were maybe thinking, oh my goodness, you know, and this could help somebody else down the road. So it was incredibly courageous on his behalf.
Well, every one of the speakers that day,
oh,
it was
God,
awesome.
Yes.
And Kathy went online and found a website with even more examples. You want to?
Yeah, that's the sleepparalysis.org website, and I'm just going to read a couple of the stories that I found on there. And I'm not going to say names because I want the people to remain anonymous. This first one, he says, when it happened to me, I heard a weird buzzing, screeching sound. I saw 2 dark figures, and they were attacking me somehow. Not physically. And I was struggling for a few minutes, and then called out to Jesus. And immediately, it was all gone. Story number 2. This event happened to me about 15. There was an evil presence that sat upon me. I was out of my body on the floor. You cannot yell or move, but you can cry out with your mind and struggle to fight it. I overcame by fighting it and called on the name of Jesus back then. Now I would call on his true name, Yeshua. My mom took me to a minister for deliverance, and I was told to play praise music at night because demons hate praise to Jesus. I did that until I was 20, and it worked. And that's from the Sleep Paralysis, again, website, www.stopsleepparalysis.org. And then you can click on the stories link.
And you can check out what the light side, what other things the light side has been up to by going to our website at www.thelightside.org.
And we do have a pamphlet online. It's free to read online. And this is what it looks like. It's called How to Refuse Alien Abduction. There's a link to it on the front page of our website. So there is hope out there from ours and other personal stories.
I'd say good luck, but luck has nothing to do with
No,
it.
God bless.
All right, take care,
God
everybody.
willing. Bye-bye.